Good morning. Today, in the World of the Fallen Devlog, we're going to talk about something absolutely central to the world of myth. Its sound, and more specifically, its music. Or to put it another way, a huge number of people have heard this theme and immediately associate it with Master Chief and the Halo series. Only a happy few know, as a bit of geek trivia, that it actually came from an earlier franchise. That tells us something about the impact of the music in myth, the Fallen Lords. And there is something worth remembering. The original soundtrack was not constant background music. During missions, the battlefield was mostly dominated by the sounds of the battle itself. Music appeared at very specific moments, usually connected to the narrative or on those unforgettable victory and defeat screens. The journal entries are probably the best example. In barely a minute of music, voice, text, and the occasional image, they could transport you into a world that, if you weren't careful, you might never quite leave. So where am I going with this? If World of the Fallen is going to recover even part of that atmosphere, sound has to matter. We'll talk about the visual side in another devlog. Today, we're staying with sound. And it's time to introduce someone.
So, these two guys making War of the Fallen use me, an AI-generated voice who, by some coincidence, happens to be called Brian, to voice their journal entries. Honestly, for a robot, I don't sound half bad. Believe me, I've had worse jobs. At least they give me the good lines.
Brian, or Dylan, as our protagonist is called, will be the main voice behind our journal entries. As he has just admitted himself, he is an AI-generated voice. We originally used him as a temporary solution, but over time we have become increasingly convinced by the result. Or maybe we have simply become far too used to Brian. But this is where, at least for now, our use of artificial intelligence in the musical side of the project ends. Every piece of music written so far for the World of the Fallen demo has been composed entirely by me, a human being. There are tools capable of generating music automatically, but for now, I prefer to keep this small creative space outside that strange mixture of blessing and curse we call AI. And World of the Fallen actually needs considerably more music than the original myth did, because this is a card game, visually less dynamic than a three-dimensional battlefield, and we need music to accompany the player for much longer stretches of time. So the challenge is to preserve something of myth's musical language without simply copying it. The soundtracks of Myth the Fallen Lords and Myth 2 Soulblighter, composed by Marty O'Donnell, Mike Salvatore, and Paul Hates, avoided conventional heroic fantasy music. Instead, they relied on dark, restrained orchestration, low strings, percussion, brass, and choral textures, to create a sense of dread and exhaustion, as if you were surviving a war that had already gone on far too long. I do my best to work in that direction, within my own limitations. After all, I am not a composer, I am a history teacher. I work in Cubase 14 using several free sounds libraries as well as a package I bought a few years ago called Era 2 Medieval Legends, which includes dozens of medieval and Renaissance instruments, along with quite a few unsettling ambient sounds. With all of that, we try to create several different moods. I'm going to play a few short examples, although if you have been following these devlogs, you've probably already heard this music in the background most of the time. For example, there are quieter, more melancholic pieces for those moments when the campaign asks you to reflect what has been lost, celebrate a small victory, or simply sit for a moment and enjoy, if that is the right word, the fact that you are still alive. There are also faster, more aggressive tracks. Sometimes you have to stop thinking about defeats and fallen comrades and give the fallen lords a small taste of what they have done to us. It doesn't happen very often, and it usually doesn't last very long. But perhaps the most common mood is this, the everyday reality of the world of myth. We don't really know what is happening. There are rumors, uncertainty, bad news, expectations and fears that only the newest recruits are still willing to admit out loud. Then there is the ambient music that plays during the card battles themselves. This is something the original game didn't really need. Here, we need pieces that can maintain an atmosphere without demanding too much attention and, above all, work on a loop without eventually driving the player insane. And of course, there will be a music volume slider, because we have to be realistic and accept that eventually it may become a little too repetitive. You know the rule: hope for victory, plan for defeat. Finally, beyond the soundtrack itself, the game also includes a whole range of sound effects tied directly to its mechanics. attacking and taking damage, healing, playing and purchasing cards, increasing or reducing the Doom level, and much more. And here we are love ourselves another small tribute. Those of you who played certain games in the late 19s may recognize some of these sounds. We are not going to tell you which ones. Finding them will be part of the game. And that's all for now. I hope you have enjoyed this short look at the sound of War of the Fallen. We still have plenty of music left to write for this story. And remember, it can't be hopeless.